My mom told me to hand over my newborn for the weekend so she could bond properly as the real mother. I said no, so she called CPS and claimed I was unstable, then lost it when the caseworker noticed her basement nursery already set up in secret. I'm 29 and I had my daughter 3 weeks ago. Difficult pregnancy, emergency C-section, the whole thing was traumatic. My mom, 56, was weirdly intense throughout the whole 9 months. She kept saying things like our baby and when the baby comes home to us, and I honestly thought she was just excited to be a grandma. My husband thought it was odd, but I told him she was just being supportive. The red flags started right after I gave birth. My mom showed up at the hospital with a car seat already installed in her car. She told the nurses she was taking the baby home to let mommy rest. The nurse looked at her like she was insane and told her that wasn't how it worked. My mom had a full meltdown in the hallway. Security almost got involved. I was still drugged up from surgery, so I didn't really process how bad it was. When we brought the baby home, my mom came over every single day. She'd show up at 6 a.m. and stay until midnight. She kept trying to take the baby into different rooms alone. She'd argue with me about every single parenting choice. When I said I was breastfeeding, she told me I was being selfish and that formula would be better so other people could bond properly. Last week she came over and straight up demanded I hand over my daughter for the entire weekend. She said she needed proper bonding time as the real mother figure and that I was too young and unstable to handle a newborn alone. I told her absolutely not. She's 3 weeks old. She's exclusively breastfed. And what the hell did she mean by real mother figure? My mom lost it. She started screaming that I was keeping her baby from her. That she'd been preparing for this for months. That I was being cruel and selfish. My husband told her to leave. She said we'd regret this. 2 days later, CPS showed up at my door. The caseworker was this tired-looking woman in her 40s who apologized immediately. She said someone had called in a report claiming I was suffering from severe postpartum psychosis, that I wasn't feeding the baby, that the house was filthy and unsafe, and that I'd been heard threatening to harm the child. She had to investigate every report by law. I was terrified. I let her in. The house was clean. The baby was healthy, gaining weight perfectly. I had all our pediatrician records showing every appointment. I was crying trying to explain that none of it was true. The caseworker was really kind. She could clearly see everything was fine. Then she asked who might have called it in. I told her about my mom. About the hospital incident. About her demanding to take the baby for the weekend. The caseworker's face changed. She asked for my mom's address. Here's where it gets insane. The caseworker told me she needed to follow up on something and she'd be back in touch. She went to my mom's house. My mom apparently thought CPS was there to take the baby from me and give her to her, so she excitedly showed the caseworker her basement. My mom had converted her entire basement into a full nursery. Crib, changing table, rocking chair, thousands of dollars in baby clothes, all in newborn to 6-month sizes. She had bottles, formula, diapers, everything. The caseworker said it looked like she'd been planning this since before I even gave birth. There were notebooks with schedules. A baby monitor system. My mom had been building a completely separate life for my daughter in her house. The caseworker came back to me and told me everything. She said my mom had admitted to making the false CPS report to prove I was unfit so she could get custody. She said this was one of the most disturbing cases she'd seen because my mom genuinely believed the baby was supposed to be hers. The caseworker helped me file for a restraining order that day. My mom has been calling me from different numbers nonstop. She's telling family members I'm keeping her baby away from her. Half my family thinks I'm overreacting. My aunt said she's just excited to be a grandma. You're being cruel. My dad, they're divorced, told me to get a lawyer immediately because my mom's behavior is fucking unhinged. The restraining order was granted yesterday. My mom violated it this morning by showing up at my house screaming that I stole her baby. The police came and arrested her. She was hysterical, crying that they were separating her from her daughter. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I keep thinking about how if that caseworker hadn't gone to my mom's house, if she hadn't seen that basement, would anyone have believed me about how bad this was? My family is split down the middle. Some are horrified. Others think I'm being dramatic and that I should just let her see the baby supervised. But she built the nursery. She made a false CPS report. She tried to have my baby taken away from me. Am I wrong for getting the restraining order? Should I have tried to work it out with family therapy first? I found out my mom has been telling everyone I'm dead and that she's raising my daughter alone. The restraining order was supposed to fix things. It didn't. My mom got out on bail the same day they arrested her for violating it. My dad called me that night and told me to get cameras for the house immediately. He said my mom was telling people at their old church that I died in childbirth and she was the baby's legal guardian now. I thought he was exaggerating. He wasn't. My aunt, the one who told me I was overreacting, called me 2 days later sobbing. She'd gone to my mom's house to check on her and found her in that basement nursery, rocking in the chair and singing to a doll. A doll dressed in an outfit I'd posted on my private Instagram when my daughter was 1 week old. My mom had somehow gotten into my account or someone had shown her the photos. My aunt said my mom looked at her and said she's sleeping, you need to be quiet. My aunt left and called my dad immediately. The CPS caseworker contacted me again. She said my mom had called their office 6 more times claiming I'd kidnapped her daughter from the hospital. Each time she called she used a different story. First it was that I wasn't the biological mother, that she was. Then it was that I'd stolen the baby from her house. Then it was that I was a surrogate who refused to hand over the baby. The caseworker said they were documenting everything for the criminal case but that I needed to be extremely careful. My husband wanted to move. Just pack up and leave the state. But I have a follow-up surgery scheduled for complications from my C-section and my doctor said I can't travel yet. So we stayed and installed cameras on every side of the house. My mom's lawyer sent us a letter. It said my mom was suing for grandparents' rights and claiming I was denying her access to her grandchild without cause. The letter made it sound like I was just being spiteful. It didn't mention the false CPS report. It didn't mention the basement nursery. It didn't mention her telling people I was dead. My husband's brother is a lawyer and he read it and said it was complete bullshit, that no judge would grant her anything with the restraining order and pending criminal charges, but we still had to respond. Then my mom showed up at my pediatrician's office. I'd taken my daughter for her 1-month checkup. I was in the waiting room when my mom walked in. She saw me, saw the baby in the car seat, and her whole face lit up. She started walking toward us saying, "There's my girl, mommy's here." The receptionist recognized her from the photos I'd given them and hit a panic button. My mom got to within 5 feet of us before security grabbed her. She fought them. She was screaming that they were keeping her from her baby. That I was a kidnapper. That someone needed to call the police. One of the security guards told her the police were already on their way and that she was violating a restraining order. My mom looked right at me and said, "You'll never be her real mother. She's mine. I've always known she was supposed to be mine." The police arrested her again. This time the bail was set higher. My dad told me she'd taken out a loan against her house to pay for it. That night I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I answered thinking it might be about my mom. It was one of my mom's friends from church. She told me she'd been at my mom's house the day before and needed to tell me something. She said my mom had shown her the basement nursery and told her that I was mentally ill and refusing treatment, that the courts were going to give her custody any day now, and that she just needed to be patient. The friend said she'd smiled and nodded at the time but left feeling sick. Then she saw the police presence at the pediatrician's office, someone had filmed it and posted it on the local Facebook group, and she put it together. She told me my mom had been planning this since I told her I was pregnant. That my mom had said things during the pregnancy like, "This is my do-over and God is giving me the daughter I was supposed to have." The friend apologized for not saying anything sooner. She said she thought my mom was just being weird about becoming a grandma, not that she actually believed the baby was hers. My family is completely fractured now. My dad's side believes me. My mom's side is split. Some of them have seen the basement or heard her talking and they're horrified. Others think I'm blowing things out of proportion and that my mom just had a breakdown that can be fixed with therapy. My uncle told me I should drop the restraining order and let her get help while still seeing the baby supervised. I asked him if he'd let someone who built a secret nursery and called CPS with false reports around his kids. He got quiet. The preliminary hearing for the criminal charges is in 2 weeks. My mom is being charged with filing a false report and 2 counts of violating the restraining order. Her lawyer is apparently arguing that she's having a mental health crisis and needs treatment, not jail time. My husband's brother said they'll probably offer some kind of plea deal with mandatory psychiatric care. But here's what keeps me up at night. My mom still has keys to my dad's house, my brother's house, probably other family members' houses. She knows my routines because she was here every day for 3 weeks. She knows where I shop, where my doctor is, everything. The cameras help, but I'm terrified every time I leave the house. Yesterday I thought I saw her car in the grocery store parking lot and I had a full panic attack in the baby aisle. My daughter is 5 weeks old now. She's perfect and healthy and has no idea any of this is happening. I should be enjoying these early weeks with her. Instead I'm checking locks 3 times before bed and jumping every time a car drives past our house. Some family members are still pushing for reconciliation. They say my mom is sick and needs help, not punishment. That I'm being cruel by keeping the baby away from her. But she tried to take my child. She built a whole fake life where my daughter was hers. She told people I was dead. I don't know if I'm handling this right. Should I have pushed harder for her to be held without bail? Am I making things worse by refusing any contact? Part of me wonders if I should have just let her see the baby with supervision from the start, maybe none of this would have escalated. But then I remember that basement and the way she looked at me in the pediatrician's office and I know I can't let her near my daughter. My mom tried to buy my daughter at the court hearing. The preliminary hearing was supposed to be straightforward. My mom's lawyer was going to argue mental health crisis, we'd present evidence, the judge would make a ruling. That's not what happened. My mom showed up dressed like she was going to a baby shower. Pink dress, matching cardigan, a diaper bag over her shoulder. An actual diaper bag. My husband saw her first and grabbed my arm so hard it left a mark. She was smiling at us like we were all there for something happy. Her lawyer looked uncomfortable the second he saw her. He tried to talk to her before we went in, but she kept saying it's fine, everything will be fine once the judge hears the truth. The bailiff had to tell her 3 times to put the diaper bag in a locker outside the courtroom. She argued that she'd need it for after. The prosecutor presented everything. The false CPS report, the basement nursery, the violations of the restraining order, the incident at the pediatrician's office. They had photos of the basement that I hadn't seen before. There were baby books filled out with my daughter's name. A baby calendar with feeding schedules and milestones marked out for the next 6 months. My mom had planned out my daughter's entire first year in her house. When it was the defense's turn, her lawyer tried to argue diminished capacity. He said my mom had experienced a psychological break after menopause and fixated on the idea of having another child. That she needed psychiatric treatment, not criminal punishment. The prosecutor asked if my mom had a history of mental illness. The lawyer said no. The prosecutor asked if my mom had been functional enough to take out a loan, hire a lawyer, and coordinate multiple attempts to access the child. The lawyer didn't have a good answer for that. Then the judge asked my mom if she wanted to speak. My mom stood up and looked right at me. She said, "I just want to hold my baby. I've been preparing for her for so long. I have everything ready. I can give her a better life than they can, they're so young and they don't know what they're doing." The judge asked her to clarify who she was referring to. My mom said, "My daughter. The baby is my daughter." The judge asked if she meant her granddaughter. My mom said no. She said, "She's mine." I knew at the moment I found out about the pregnancy. God told me she was supposed to be mine. Her lawyer looked like he wanted to die. He tried to get my mom to sit down, but she kept talking. She told the judge about the nursery, about how much money she'd spent, about the schedule she'd made. She said I was confused and possessive and that the baby needed to be with her real mother. The judge let her talk. Just let her keep going until she'd said enough to bury herself. When she finally stopped, the judge denied bail. He said my mom posed a clear threat to me and my daughter and that she'd demonstrated she had no intention of following court orders. My mom started screaming. She screamed that the judge was keeping her from her baby, that this was illegal, that someone needed to call child services because her baby was being kept by strangers. Security had to remove her from the courtroom. We could hear her screaming in the hallway for 5 minutes. My husband's brother said he'd never seen anything like it in 15 years of practice. But it got worse after we left. My dad called me that night. He said my mom's sister had contacted him. She wanted to make a deal. She said the family would pay me $50,000 if I agreed to let my mom have supervised visits and drop the restraining order. $50,000 to give my mom access to my daughter. I asked my dad if he was serious. He said my aunt had called it compensation for distress and said the family just wanted peace. She told him my mom was suffering in jail and that I was being cruel by not accepting help from family. My dad told her to never contact him again. Then my phone started blowing up. Family members I hadn't heard from in years were messaging me. Some were offering money. Some were begging me to drop the charges. One cousin told me I was destroying the family over grandma's stuff and that my mom just loved the baby too much. Another told me I should be grateful my mom wanted to be so involved instead of being a distant grandparent. My uncle, the one who told me to let her get help while seeing the baby, called me directly. He said he talked to my mom on the phone and she'd promised she understood now that the baby was mine. That she just wanted a chance to be a normal grandma. I asked him if he'd been at the hearing. He said no. I told him what she'd said to the judge. He went quiet for a long time. Then he said maybe I was wrong. The prosecutor contacted me 2 days after the hearing. She said my mom had been trying to call family members from jail to coordinate getting the money together for the $50,000 offer. She was telling people that once she had visitation rights, she could build a case for custody. That she just needed to get her foot in the door. The prosecutor said every call from jail is recorded and they had all of it. My mom's lawyer withdrew from the case. The prosecutor said he'd cited irreconcilable differences with his client and an inability to mount an adequate defense when the defendant kept incriminating herself. My mom went through 2 more lawyers in a week. Both quit after meeting with her. She's representing herself now. She filed a motion for grandparents' rights from jail. The motion claimed I was an unfit mother because I was withholding a child from her biological parent without cause. She listed herself as the biological parent. Her filing was so incoherent the judge's clerk called the prosecutor to ask if my mom had legal representation or if she was having a mental health emergency. The prosecutor told me they're pushing for a psychiatric evaluation before trial. She said my mom needs to be assessed for competency to stand trial and that depending on the results, she might be committed to a psychiatric facility instead of going to prison. Part of me wants her in prison where she can't hurt us. Part of me knows she's genuinely sick and needs help. But mostly I'm just exhausted. My daughter is 2 months old. I've spent half her life dealing with this. Every milestone, every moment I should be enjoying, there's this shadow over it. My husband wants to leave the state as soon as my surgery follow-up is done. My dad thinks we should wait until after the trial. I don't know what's right anymore. The family members who offered money have gone quiet since the recorded jail calls came out. Nobody wants to be on record supporting someone who's actively planning to take a baby. My aunt who started the whole $50,000 offer hasn't contacted anyone since the prosecutor mentioned the recordings. My uncle sent me a text that just said I'm sorry. I should have listened. But I still can't leave my house without checking every car in the parking lot. I still wake up multiple times a night to check the cameras. My daughter is safe and healthy and perfect, but I feel like I'm falling apart trying to protect her from my own mother. My mom escaped from the psychiatric facility and was found trying to break into my house with bolt cutters at 3 a.m. The psych evaluation came back 2 weeks ago. The doctor said my mom has delusional disorder with obsessive features. She genuinely believes my daughter is hers, that I somehow stole her, and that everyone is conspiring to keep them apart. The doctor recommended she be held in a secured psychiatric facility for treatment before any trial. The judge agreed. I thought that meant we were safe. That she'd be locked up somewhere getting help and we could finally breathe. I was wrong. The facility she was sent to was supposed to be secure, but it wasn't a prison. It was a hospital. My mom spent 4 days convincing the staff she was improving. She attended every therapy session. She took her medication without argument. She told her doctor she was starting to understand that she'd been confused, that the baby was her grandchild, not her child. They noted she was making excellent progress. On the 5th night she walked out during a shift change. Just walked right out the side door while 2 staff members were dealing with another patient having a crisis. Nobody noticed she was gone until breakfast the next morning. By then she'd been missing for 7 hours. The facility called the police. The police called me. It was 6 a.m. and I was feeding my daughter when I got the call. The officer told me my mom had escaped and that I needed to lock my doors and stay inside until they found her. I asked him how the hell she escaped from a locked facility. He said he didn't have those details yet, but that officers were on their way to my house. My husband grabbed the baby and we went to our bedroom. It has a lock on the door and it's the furthest room from any entrance. We sat on the floor with our backs against the bed and waited. 2 officers showed up within 10 minutes. They checked the whole house and the yard. They said they'd stay parked outside until my mom was found. She was found 6 hours later in my backyard. A neighbor 2 houses down called 911 when she saw someone crouched by my back fence. The police came and found my mom trying to cut through the chain link fence with bolt cutters. She'd stolen them from a construction site 3 blocks away. She'd already cut through most of one section. Another few minutes and she would have been through. When the cops grabbed her, she started screaming that she needed to get to her baby. That I was keeping her baby locked inside and she needed to save her. She fought them. It took 3 officers to get her in handcuffs. Our security camera caught all of it. I watched the footage later and my mom looked feral. Her hair was a mess, her hospital clothes were filthy, and her hands were bleeding from the bolt cutters. But her face was calm. Like cutting through a fence at 3 a.m. to get to a baby that wasn't hers was completely rational. They took her to county jail this time. The prosecutor said the facility failed in their duty to secure her and that she was too dangerous to be sent back. She's being held without bail pending a competency hearing. Her public defender, her 4th lawyer, is arguing that the escape proves she's mentally ill and needs treatment, not jail. The prosecutor is arguing that she's mentally ill and dangerous and needs to be in a facility that can actually contain her. The facility is being investigated. Apparently my mom isn't the first patient to walk out during shift changes. There's a whole thing now with the state health department and potential license violations. The prosecutor told me the facility might lose their contract to house court-ordered patients. None of that helps me. My mom still got out. She still made it to my house. She still almost got through that fence. My family has gone completely silent. The ones who were defending her, the ones who offered money, the ones who said she just needed help. Nobody's calling anymore. My aunt who started the $50,000 offer deactivated her Facebook. My uncle who told me to give her supervised visits sent a brief text that said I'm so sorry. I was so wrong. That's it. No follow-up. No checking if we're okay. My dad is furious. He's talking about suing the facility for negligence. His lawyer told him we have a case but that it would take years and might not be worth the emotional toll. My dad doesn't care. He wants someone held accountable for letting her get out. For letting her get to our house. We're leaving. My surgery follow-up was yesterday and my doctor cleared me to travel. We're moving to my husband's parents' house in another state. It's temporary until we figure out something permanent, but we can't stay here. My mom knows this house. She knows the yard, the fence line, the weak points. Even in jail I don't feel safe here. The prosecutor said leaving the state won't affect the case. My testimony is already recorded and my husband's brother can appear on our behalf for most hearings. She said she understands why we need to go and that she'd do the same thing in our position. The trial is set for 3 months from now. 3 months of waiting to see if my mom goes to prison or a psychiatric facility or somehow gets out again. Packing up the house feels surreal. My daughter is almost 3 months old. This was supposed to be her first home. I had plans for what her nursery would look like when she was older. What pictures we'd hang in the hallway. Normal parent things. Instead, I'm packing everything we own because my mother tried to kidnap her and escaped from a hospital to finish the job. My husband's parents have been amazing. They've converted their guest room into a nursery. They've told us we can stay as long as we need. They've never once suggested I should forgive my mom or give her another chance. His mom told me on the phone yesterday that she doesn't care if my mom is sick, that sick people can still be dangerous and we have to protect our daughter first. But I keep thinking about that security footage. About my mom's face while she was cutting through the fence. She looked peaceful. Like she was doing something good. Something right. The cops said she was humming while she worked. Humming a lullaby. The trial ended yesterday. My mom is going to a maximum security psychiatric facility for at least 10 years. The prosecution presented everything. The false CPS report, the basement nursery, the escape, the bolt cutters, all of it. The defense tried to argue that my mom was too mentally ill to be held criminally responsible. That she needed treatment, not punishment. The prosecutor showed the jury the recordings from jail where my mom detailed her plans to get custody once she had visitation rights. She showed them the footage of my mom cutting through our fence at 3 a.m., calm and humming. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Filing a false report, stalking, attempted kidnapping, escape from custody. The judge sentenced her to 10 years in a secured psychiatric facility with mandatory treatment. After 10 years, she'll be evaluated to see if she's safe to release. If not, they can extend it indefinitely. My mom smiled when they read the sentence. She looked at me and said, "I'll wait. I can wait 10 years if that's what it takes to be with my daughter." The bailiff had to remove her. We could hear her talking to herself in the hallway about how 10 years wasn't that long, that my daughter would only be 10 years old, that there was still time. The prosecutor told me after that my mom's delusion has actually gotten worse. The doctors at the jail tried multiple medications and nothing worked. She's convinced this is all temporary, that eventually everyone will see she's right and give her the baby. The doctor who evaluated her said she might never accept reality. That some delusions are so deeply rooted they become part of someone's core identity. We're not going back to our old house. My husband's parents helped us find a rental near them and we moved in last week. It's smaller than our old place but it feels safer. Nobody here knows our story. Nobody knows about my mom or the trial or any of it. We're just a young couple with a baby. My daughter is 6 months old now. She started solid foods and she laughs at everything her dad does. She has no idea that half her life was spent in the middle of a nightmare. She doesn't know about the basement nursery or the bolt cutters or any of it. I want to keep it that way for as long as possible. My dad visits once a month. He sold my mom's house to pay for the legal fees she racked up and to cover the damages from the lawsuit against the psychiatric facility that let her escape. He says the house sold fast because nobody local wanted to buy the place where the crazy grandma built a kidnapping nursery. Those were his words. He's been in therapy since the trial. He told me last time he visited that he keeps wondering if he missed signs when they were married, if there were warning signs that she could become this person. His therapist told him that sometimes mental illness doesn't show up until later in life, that he couldn't have known. I don't think he believes that. The rest of my family has fractured completely. My mom's side doesn't talk to us. They're still convinced she's just sick and that we're cruel for pressing charges. My aunt who tried to buy visitation rights sent me a letter after the sentencing. She said I destroyed my mom's life and that I'd have to live with that. That my daughter would grow up knowing I put her grandmother in prison. I burned the letter. My uncle who told me to give my mom supervised visits reached out through my dad. He wanted to apologize in person. My dad told him no. That we were done with anyone who defended my mom even for a second. Some bridges you can't rebuild. My husband's family has been our anchor through all of this. His mom watches the baby when we need a break. His dad helped us move and set up the new place. They've never once made us feel like we're a burden or like this is too much drama. His mom told me a few weeks ago that family isn't just blood, it's who shows up when things fall apart. She's right. I still have nightmares about the security footage. About my mom's face while she cut through the fence. About how close she got. I wake up sometimes convinced I hear someone in the backyard and my husband has to check the cameras to prove nobody's there. My therapist says it's normal after trauma like this. That it'll take time. I'm not sure I believe that either. The prosecutor said she'll call me when my mom comes up for her 10-year evaluation. She said based on the psychiatric reports, it's unlikely my mom will ever be released. That she's too fixated, too convinced of her delusion. But there's always a chance. A chance that in 10 years someone will decide she's improved enough to let out. That's what keeps me up at night now. Not the immediate threat but the future one. My daughter will be 10 years old when my mom's first evaluation happens. Old enough to understand if we have to explain why grandma can't see her. Old enough to ask questions. I don't know how to prepare for that conversation. How do you tell a child that their grandmother tried to kidnap them because she believed they were her child? That she cut through a fence at 3 a.m. to get to them? There's no good way to explain that kind of delusion. We're building a new life here. New friends, new routines, new everything. My husband got a job that pays better than his old one. We found a pediatrician who doesn't know our history. We're trying to be normal. But there's always this shadow. This knowledge that my mom is out there in a facility somewhere, still believing my daughter is hers, still waiting. The facility sends quarterly reports to the prosecutor and she forwards them to my lawyer. My mom is not improving. She's compliant with treatment, but she hasn't wavered on her core delusion. She talks about my daughter like she's just away temporarily. Like we're keeping her baby from her, but eventually they'll be reunited. The doctors have noted that she's created an entire fantasy life where she's raising my daughter. She talks about what they did together that day. What they're going to do tomorrow. None of it is real. My dad asked me last month if I ever felt guilty. If I ever wondered if we should have handled things differently. I told him no. That I protected my daughter from someone who was dangerous, sick or not. That my mom made her choices and I made mine. He nodded and said that was the right answer, but I could tell he was struggling with it. He still loves her. Even after everything, part of him still loves the person she was before the delusion took over. I don't have that problem. I can't love someone who looked at my newborn baby and decided she was theirs. Who built a secret nursery and made false reports and tried to cut through my fence in the middle of the night. Sick or not, those were her actions. Those were her choices in service of her delusion. My daughter started saying mama last week. Just babbling mostly, but sometimes she looks right at me when she says it. My husband cried the first time. I did too, but for different reasons. Because my mom will never hear her say it. Because my daughter's first word is a title my mom tried to steal. 10 years feels like forever and no time at all. My daughter will be in 4th grade. She'll have friends and hobbies and a whole life. And somewhere my mom will still be waiting, still believing, still convinced that child is hers. I hope she never gets out. I know that makes me sound heartless, but I don't care. She almost took my daughter from me. She would have succeeded if that neighbor hadn't called 911 when she did. Another few minutes and my mom would have been through that fence. Would have been in my house. Would have had her hands on my baby. That's not something you forgive. That's not something you get over. We're safe now. My daughter is thriving. We have a good life in a place where nobody knows our story. But I'll never fully relax. Not until my mom is gone. Not until the threat is permanently eliminated. 10 years is just the first checkpoint. There will be more evaluations after that. More chances for someone to decide she's better. More opportunities for her to get out. I'll fight every single one. For 10 years, 20 years, however long it takes. My daughter deserves to grow up without fear. Without looking over her shoulder. Without knowing that her grandmother is out there somewhere waiting for her. That's what my mom took from us. Not just those first few months, but our sense of safety forever. Even now, even states away with her locked up, I still check the locks 3 times before bed. Still check the cameras. Still feel my heart race when I see someone who looks like her in a store. My therapist says that's hypervigilance. That it's my brain trying to protect me from a threat that's no longer immediate. But it doesn't feel like it's gone. It feels like it's waiting. Just like my mom.